Good morning, everybody. It's actually a week today that the start of the process of dismantling the case against Stephen Brendan will begin. That is because next Monday is a holiday, apparently, and so Zellner's brief will be received a week today, Tuesday. I say it'll be the start of the process of proving and showing that every single piece of evidence against Stephen Brendan was fabricated. Kathleen Zellner has already shown that in Making a Murder number 2, but finally the court will get to see for themselves and be able to call the experts to do it all within the court system. This will have a disastrous effect on Ken Kratz because his case will be completely destroyed. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't actually believe that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are really that at all dependent on the opinions of either guilters or truthers. As Kathleen Zellner has already pointed out, it's the experts which will prove or disprove their guilt or innocence. However, that hasn't stopped the sweaty prize from going on a media campaign. And it was interesting because the first thing I did when I first contacted him via email, I pointed out the article by John Furyk about the lack of photographs of the burn pit. It asks serious questions as to what the dickens was going on over that week that law enforcement searched the salvage yard. It was funny that Kratz replied by saying that John Furyk isn't even a real journalist. No, Ken. John Furyk is one of the few journalists that doesn't just accept everything you say and parrot it out at every opportunity. It was during this exchange that he said, I give you the offer of a question. I'd already sent him quite a few questions, and so I sent a few more. His reply, basically, in a nutshell, will you buy my book? No, Ken, I'm not going to buy your book, but I did do a very good thing, and I went and checked book reviews. And they all came back, practically all of them, saying that it wasn't worth the paper it was written on. It was only fit for one use, that book of yours. That didn't stop you from saying, buy the book, because there's bits that are different. And in the end, again, I asked you several more questions, one in particular. Tell us about Brendan Dassey's computer. It's got all these images on it, which you said were of zero or minimal evidentiary value. So why didn't you use that computer against Brendan? If that was a slip, then, why did you not use that evidence against whoever it was that was looking at those images? Again, we can all see that, Ken. Kathleen Zellner has displayed everything to do with that computer to us. We can see exactly what's going on. So anyway, I'm not going to buy your book. So in the end, you decided to block me. Whoopee-doo, big deal. That is the cowardice way. And you you suggested that I had been disrespectful to the Holbachs by questioning whether Bert and Ernie, your two lead investigators, had ever asked Mike Holbach to explain why he referred to the grieving process could last 2 days, whilst Teresa at that time had merely been reported missing. But you'd had enough of me pointing out these errors, so you decided to block me. Interesting now that you've started doing some videos. Laughable, Craig, absolutely laughable, of no value whatsoever. Robert Herman told me over 3.5 years ago about the fact that if you look at certain clips, you'll see the time jumping. My question would be this. Rather than looking at things that Brendan did or did not say according to these videos, let's think about what was said by your investigators. Was the bit when we get blurted out, I'm just going to come out and ask you, who shot her in the head? Was that edited? Was the control question edited? No. As well as watching videos, we, the supporters of truth and justice for Teresa Halbach, have made a point of looking at as many transcripts as we can get our hands on. The trial transcripts and, of course, the interview transcripts. We know exactly what was said in them. This is why Eric Cozy started his campaign looking at the control question, because it's just one of the many examples of the pressure that was put on Brendan and the way that he would simply agree to anything that was being put to him. And of course, again, what do we get at the end of your videos? Buy my book, please. It is pathetic, Ken. Now, I did a little bit of looking into your sexting scandal, and I find that very, very interesting. I went to a site called Convoluted Brian, very good site. In it, in the on the page, he's got links to various emails. The very first one you get is a complaint from Ken to Kevin Potter of the Department of Justice, wanting to know how the sexting scandal got out. How did the criminal victim rights criminal board, how did they get to hear about it, and what was going to happen next, and talking about his usual 25 years reputation as a prosecutor. Wisconsin had to suffer you for 25 years, my goodness. So Kevin Potter replies that there are concerns on numerous levels. Let's be clear about this. The one case that busted this whole thing right open, which was the one obviously that Ryan Foley was the one to expose originally, and you can find his stuff up there on the internet. Just look up Ryan Foley, Wisconsin. One of the paragraphs of the letter from Kevin Potter read as such as this. He put, a defense attorney could argue that a potential personal relationship between you and, we'll just use the initials SVG, could affect her credibility and reflect bias on her part. And if so, you, in urging SVG to keep your communications secret, could, and I would have to say would, have been considered to be suppressing evidence that might be required by law to be disclosed. Well, Kevin, I can assure you, Ken Kratz has a long history of suppressing evidence. I would suggest you and the rest of your DOJ look very closely at what Kathleen Zellner is going to be presenting. But you know, finally, Ken, I would just like to say this. If you were an ethical former prosecutor, then this is what you should do. This is what you should be doing, okay? So you might want to get a pen and paper and take notes, because I'm not going to offer you this advice again. Number one, you should start a campaign to get conviction integrity units into Wisconsin. Okay? They are the people that look at convictions to see, are they trustworthy? Are they accurate? Is there a problem with this case? Had they done so ages ago, making a murderer would never have been a phenomenon. It could have been dealt with a long, long time ago. You only need a conviction integrity unit to have looked at it. Point number one. Point number two. Making a murder, unfortunately for you, has come out. It has highlighted huge doubts and questions about corruption in Wisconsin. Okay? And as such, that is denying closure to the Holbachs. And you should be trying to bring closure to the Holbachs. You should be petitioning the Department of Justice, you know, your friends over there, Tom Fallon and Norm Garn. You remember your friend Mark Wiegert over at CASO? You should be petitioning them to give all the evidence, and particularly the RAV4, to Kathleen Zellner, so that she can test all the evidence and prove that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey really are the cold-hearted murderers that you say they are. It will cost the state nothing. And if Kathleen Zellner proves that, well, yep, Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey, they really did it, then that's going to be fantastic for you, Ken. Failure to do so, though, things are going to get messy. Bye for now.